You stroll a quiet Italian piazza when the blast erupts. Bodies drop, sirens wail. NATO trained you for this. Why would your alliance turn you into a bomber on home soil? After 1945, the war never ends. You join partisans and OSS agents, hiding weapons in the Alps. New orders, wait for Soviet tanks. Yet the real target shifts in shadows. By 1951, CIA and NATO formalize stay-behind units as Gladio. You train in sabotage and radio codes. Files stay locked. Who controls the trigger when orders never come? Belgium, France, Greece, Turkey, each builds its secret army. You train with soldiers who never wear uniforms, loyalty sworn to a command no parliament sees. What if it points inward? Original plan, resist invasion. Doctrine changes, whispers of strategy of tension. Bombs blamed on communists to block the left. Is the invasion here, wearing your face? In 1969, a Milan bomb kills 17. Trail leads to your network's cache. Reports blame anarchists. You know the rifles came from Gladio. Who wrote the report? New instructions, stage attacks that look communist. Goal is fear, not victory. Parliaments never vote. When Soviet invasion fails, secret soldiers still need a war. Declassified memos show decades of CIA funding. Governments deny authorizing attacks on citizens. Did stay-behind armies go rogue, or was the script written in Washington? Your unit still exists on paper. Last cache is never fully recovered. As night falls, you wonder how many unsolved attacks carry the old Gladio signature. What if it never stood down? You watch first documents surface in Rome. Magistrates trace caches to 1950s orders later denied. Who gave the command to arm civilians? Trail points to a NATO committee no one admits attending. You follow the money. CIA chiefs transfer funds through fronts while the charter stays silent. Governments file arms lists under resistance contingency. What happens when one ledger survives? First public crack in 1990. Andreotti names Gladio in Parliament. Every capital claims its program ended earlier. Sudden denials only highlight the secrecy. How many ministers still read the same script? You trace recruitment. Former partisans approached with new handlers and sealed orders. Their children inherit dead drops without knowing the mission changed. Who decides when a partisan becomes an operative? Weapons sit in waterproof crates under farms and monasteries. Local officers get code name maps. One Swiss discovery triggers a sweep that finds nothing. What else remains buried? NATO memos list units under special projects. Training teaches bomb-making and propaganda. Distinction between defense and provocation is left to the reader. Which version did field teams follow? First journalists publishing names see sources transferred or dead in accidents. Inquiries conclude networks were defensive. Pattern repeats. How many accidents before coincidence becomes method? Last official cache declared recovered, yet inventory lists only a fraction of supplied explosives. Missing tons written off as lost. No one explains how they vanish from locked depots. Where did the rest go? Structure never required central command after setup. Each unit ran on sealed orders activatable locally if Brussels went dark. Designed to survive occupation without orders. What does it do when occupation never arrives? Investigators pulled faded manifests listing tons of C4 issued in the 1960s. Half carry no signatures. One leader admits surplus went into private storage. Trail stops at a scratched-out name. What if it never left? You stand in wrecked Bologna Station, 1980. Blast kills 85. Files name far-right militants trained in Gladio courses, yet contain an unsigned order routing explosives through a NATO depot. Who signed it? A Belgian officer kept his cache active after 1968. He received a sealed Phase 2 envelope with targets inside his own city, opened only if Soviets landed. No invasion came, yet the envelope stayed. What was inside? Aldo Moro's 1978 kidnapping. Red Brigades claimed it, yet his widow says he received a Gladio warning. Carabinieri note kidnappers used a NATO frequency. Report stamped, "Not for release." Log disappears. Swiss account tied to a Turkish cell matches dates of 3 Ankara bombings blamed on leftists. CIA memo calls it precautionary theater. When was that authorized? Greek Red Sheepskin files list civilian targets for demonstration attacks in 1967, coinciding with the colonel's coup. Folder ends, assets retained for future contingency. What still exists? A Dutch operative describes annual drills rehearsing rail bridge bombings near Rotterdam. Drills continue after Soviet collapse. Orders never rescinded. What standing order remains? German prosecutor finds a 1995 Gladio cache in a NATO depot containing plastique matching a 1983 attack blamed on Baader-Meinhof. Ledger request denied for alliance security. Which alliance? Every national file shares the same margin note. Retain option for domestic stabilization. Same handwriting across languages. If occupation never came, who was meant to be stabilized? 1995 cache matches explosives in the 1972 Petiano bombing that killed 3 Carabinieri. Reports still name neo-fascists, yet the margin note reappears. Who chose the targets? Rome hearings confirm Gladio units staged false flag attacks. Operatives admit the 1980 Bologna massacre. Same handwriting on the order. Which government signed it? Belgium's 1980s Brabant killings match Gladio munitions. Survivors describe attackers in police uniforms. NATO feared socialist wins more than Soviet tanks. What domestic threat required stabilization? CIA's 1959 directive orders preventive action inside Allied countries. Files stop mentioning Moscow and list local elections. Handwriting identical across languages. Who wrote the orders? Swiss and Austrian networks never activated against invaders but monitored Union leaders. One operative states the real enemy was internal dissent. Retain option, circled in red. What justified permanent readiness? 1990. NATO memo orders destruction of remaining caches. Several countries report weapons already missing. Margin note absent from this document alone. Where did the final caches disappear? You stand in the empty 1995 depot. No records of later investigation. Official histories call Gladio purely defensive. Same handwriting on the denial letter. Who still protects the option? Every inquiry ends. Further disclosure would damage alliance cohesion. No author named. Handwriting expert confirms one person wrote every note. Report classified. What name remains hidden? Secret soldiers staged attacks on citizens. Files never reveal who controlled the trigger. Final page blank except one instruction. If Soviets never came, who was meant to be stabilized and by whom?